This is a global confrontation. We know one thing about Donald Trump. He is a tough guy. We need to be tough too. Ukraine is tough. You have so many friends in Europe ready to help you with that, it's achievable.
Is Putin ready to use nukes?
I can answer differently on this difficult question.
Jan, good to see you here in Kyiv, and let me recall when we met last time. It was 10 days or 2 weeks before start of major escalation, when the local war in Donbass was turned by Russia into full-scale war. Do you expect a new escalation now?
Hello, thank you for having me, and I hope not another escalation. There is enough escalation from the Russian side now. So we need to do everything that we prevent them from another escalation.
But the recent one has really happened. I mean, use of intercontinental ballistic missile against Ukraine.
There is one lesson that we need to continue to support Ukraine, because it's not only about Ukraine, it's about what is allowed in this world. If basically imperial war for territory is allowed in 21st century.
Not an escalation, but a major change that we expect to have on January 21st. Trump will become the president of the United States. What do you expect from that to Ukraine?
So we know one thing about Donald Trump. He is a tough guy. So if we as Europe want to prove something to him, maybe to convince him something about, we need to be tough too. Ukraine is tough. Ukraine is so tough that it was not 3 days, even not 3 months, and I'm sure that it won't be 3 years until Russia is able to subjugate it. I expect toughness. Let's wait what will be the final composition of his administration. We know many names, we hear some speculations, some names even already dropped. So I think we should have, we need to wait, and we know what we expect from Donald Trump, because he promised strong America, maybe some tariffs, and we will need to convince them that the war between Russia and Ukraine is not only about Russia and Ukraine, that this is a global global affair with implication into food security, into implications into Indo-Pacific security now with North Korean soldiers attacking also Ukrainian army. So it is something we really need to be able to explain and act accordingly.
Let me clarify. You guess that Ukraine should be tough, and wouldn't it push back?
No, absolutely not. This is something which is respected in the world, such we are living in.
And also, let me quote you. You recently said, we don't know how US aid to Ukraine will or will not continue. It's not as if Donald Trump could flip a switch and the next day Ukraine would have nothing at all. You said that in the UK. Could you elaborate on that?
So we know that things takes time. So now with the Biden's administration providing rest of the agreed support to Ukraine, for certain period of time will have those resources at its disposals, and if there would be a discontinuation of help, then Europe must step in.
Are you ready, and does Europe ready to replace the United States in terms of military support to Ukraine?
So it's like roughly 50-50, maybe US is giving a little bit more. But of course different kind of systems. It won't be easy for Europe, but Europe will be pushed by the new administration to spend more on defense. So this might be part of that. But if we want to show Donald Trump that we are tough, we have to be ready to do so. I think this will be one of the situations which we pretty soon will be solving.
We as Ukraine, we have to be grateful to the Czech Republic because of Czech initiative, so-called Armour Initiative, which led us to have shells. Do you see that there is a sustainability?
This year we promised to deliver, or we offered international community, if sponsored, that we can deliver 500,000 ammunition, heavy caliber ammunition rounds to Ukraine, and we will deliver. I can tell you this, we will deliver.
By the end of this year?
By the end of this year. I don't know which number was delivered and what is the rest, but what I hear from people responsible for this initiative, they say it will be delivered. And Prime Minister Fiala and Denmark Prime Minister, Netherlands Prime Minister already said, let's continue in year 25. We will announce details, but I think it's clear that Ukraine will need ammunition also in year 25, so we should continue.
As far as I understand, this initiative is mostly focused on stocks somewhere else, not in Europe. Are these stocks still full?
Not exclusively, but of course it used the situation when the current production was not so strong, so it identified already made stockpiles around the world, bought them, refurbish in certain cases, make sure that everything works properly, and then send it to Ukraine, so Ukraine soldiers can defend itself from Russian attacks.
Do you see that these stockpiles can supply shells in these numbers for several years?
I think there will need to ramp up production. Ukraine is ramping up its own production. Many different kind of projects are happening around the world. So definitely this must happen. But for year 25, we see a lot of already made ammunition around the world, which could be also used for this book.
Is there an understanding in the West in general that this war is a global war? It's definitely not only about Ukraine.
That differs how you look at it and through which eyes you look at it. But definitely this is the message I'm delivering very often. This is a global confrontation. Putin made himself some kind of axis of evil, I call it, with Tehran, with Pyongyang, and economic enablement, and China is allowing that economically, the whole thing to go on, so we are quite aware of that.
You are quite aware, but your counterparts in other countries, do they understand that too? What do you hear from them when you try to explain it?
It's very different. It depends to whom you speak and at which forum, and I think it's important that we have quite a strong NATO position. Also, the EU is united on many things, on sanction regimes. For example, Russia is responsible for 80% of disinformation in Europe. And we have to understand that also it's not about this information war, but the hybrid activities are getting more and more serious. And just recently we had this person trying to commit an arson attack in Czechia, not to destroy a bus, which would not be damaged as such, but to spread fear in society. So we are working on resilience, and we are working on measures how to contain Russian influence.
Let me be blunt in explaining my thoughts. I'm pretty sure that we are in the World War III already. Just many countries do not want to face the reality, and they do not want to recognize that, aren't they? You
know, in the 90s, it started the era of globalization and optimism. Even we called it the end of history in the famous book. So we know that the story is different. We are now in a phase of deglobalization. The new blocks are emerging. We don't know what the boundaries exactly are. There are some contests going on. So I would describe it as a global confrontation. That's the way how I would describe the current phase.
So a confrontation, not a war.
The war is going on here in Ukraine. The information war is happening in our internet information sphere. Hybrid war is going on in Europe, that's clear. So it depends on what you want to describe. But for me, currently, the term global confrontation fits at best.
Let me explain what I lead to. My view, maybe I'm wrong, but by now I see that it is confirmed by the reality. People in some Western countries, in major powers, are so much afraid of thinking and talking about global conflict, that they can even compromise Ukrainian interests, just not to have this global war, conflict, doesn't matter. And by history of your country, that it's not the first time in history when some things like that happens.
So I use this comparison very often, and I use the year 1938 quite a lot. And what was about year 1938? It was about the demand of Adolf Hitler that the Czechoslovakia would give to Germany Sudetenland. And there are so many speeches given by Adolf Hitler where he confirms, this is my last demand. I won't demand more, just give me Sudetenland. My German fellows are living there. I want to unite them into Germany. And he pushed, and Munich Agreement was exactly about giving him what he asked for. And it was dictated to Czechoslovakia that it will be stripped by Sudetenland, and it did not end anything. It was just the very beginning. We know that in a year or something, the Second World War started with the German attack on Poland. And it is not the only lesson from that appeasement did not work. The other lesson, which I'm emphasizing more and more when I speak with my Western partner, is that the Czechoslovakian nation feel betrayed. Because Czechoslovakia is a very modern country, rich, and it has a good relation with France and UK and many other countries. But it was not protected by them when it's supposed to be. And if West would leave Ukraine, dictated to give something to Russia, some concessions, without approving here in Ukraine, it would create a feel of betrayal. And that's something much more dangerous than it is something which spent for decades of years, this kind of hard feelings.
Do you see a chance that the United States would force us to give up that way?
I don't know, but I'm warning against this kind of scenario, exactly with the Munich Agreement example.
Is Putin ready to use nukes?
I can answer differently on this difficult question. Czechia, as a member of NATO, is a member of alliance which is also nuclear alliance. And in the case of nuclear escalation, NATO has its plans for such a situation. For Czechia, it is NATO which deals with issue of nuclear deterrence and with possible reactions to the situation when such a scenario happens.
You know that currently a front line is not that stable. Unfortunately, for quite some time, we see territorial losses one by one, village by village. That's a reality we face. Do you see that there could be some good news?
I'm not a military expert, so I don't comment on specific events in the war. I understand that the situation is not easy. I thank to all the brave men and women protecting Europe on the front lines in trenches. And I know that as a Czech Minister of Foreign Affairs, I have to motivate not only my country to continue with all the military, diplomatic, humanitarian aid to Ukraine, but also to motivate the other actors who stands on the right side of history.
What is the general feeling in the EU? You've been at my Foreign Ministerial Council just recently. What do you feel? Is it rather a feeling of danger that everything is collapsing, or feeling of what?
I don't think that there is this kind of feeling. I think there is a feeling that we have to continue with our help. And that we have to help Ukraine come through the winter, which would be easy, and that we have to continue with not only military aid, but also this kind of humanitarian development aid, which means sending material for hospitals, for example, winterization. So it won't be not only about cogeneration unit for example, heaters. So even civilian population can sustain it in a. So we help also to civilians. It's about whole Ukraine as a whole society, and we need to continue with that, because all the other scenarios when Ukraine collapse and is given or to Russia or subjugated by Russia isn't good, and then we have to prevent it. So it's not only about helping Ukraine, but also working on the complex European security.
The thing which to me as an editor of European Pravda is very much important is our future accession to the EU, because I feel that it really can be a game changer. Do you personally feel that in Europe there is a real, not rhetorical, but real understanding that Ukraine will be a member of the EU in general,
yes,
that it should be?
It should be, it has to be, and we are helping you. Ukraine has to work on that. A lot of laws has to be adopted, some reforms, some changes, but there is a strong will from government, and we advocate it from within.
Some people say in Ukraine that, well, it's just impossible because we have Hungary, there have other countries that would not allow us. Could you convince our readers that it will really happen?
I would view the situation in a different way. I would say, look, there is something which needs to be fulfilled for Ukraine to become the member of the EU. What is the first step we have to do? I would look at that and be working very hard on that, and then I will be looking on the other steps. That would prove that really Ukraine is ready to join the EU, and this is actually happening right now. So the accession process is moving forward, and there is a lot of hard work. So I would argument with demonstration of readiness rather to spend it on political discussions, because if you look at the specific problems, very often they can be quite easily solved, and that should be the attitude and the approach.
I understand that you cannot name a date, even an approximate date, but given the scale of work Ukraine have to do, what is the realistic assessment? When is it possible, theoretically?
I never say a date when it comes to enlargement exactly, because it's not only a technical process but also a political one, and that's quite hard to influence. But again, currently there is no single country which would be technically ready to join the EU. So become technically ready, and then we can have much more different discussion. And you have so many friends in Europe ready to help you with that it's achievable.
Thank you very much for that interview.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I really very much hope that one day you would be able to say, well, Ukraine will join the EU next year.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.